the last probably week and a half, the club is reportedly up their pursuit of Daniel Saifiti. So according to reports, they are the front runners. I think David Riccio and the Daily Telegraph were reporting that. He has a bit more upside than Lodge, but he's not a player I'm overly excited about, Kurt, mainly because of that point we just spoke about. He's on a massive contract at Newcastle. Newcastle are obviously moving him on because they've got all sorts of cap issues. In fact, their cap situation is so bad they actually can't even re-sign Leo Thompson at the moment. So if I'm the Dragons, I'm keeping more tabs on Leo Thompson than I am on Daniel Saifiti. I think the Dragons, for the last little while, have been lured into a false sense of security about signing players that were once good. And Daniel Saifiti's played 7 games for New South Wales, and all the journalists keep referring to him as an Origin player. Well, no, he was an Origin player 3 or 4 years ago, not or 2 or 3 years ago. He isn't a current Origin player. He's a bench player at the Knights, and I think even if the Knights are paying some freight, it just makes me feel a bit uneasy. Like I think Flanagan is someone that can help careers flourish. But I think, once you kind of get to that age and the body is struggling to keep up with the pace of the competition, then that kind of alarm bells are kind of ringing in my head. And I think sometimes I'm lured into a false sense of security, thinking that it's a water to wine kind of thing with Shane Flanagan. Like he's not Jesus. He's not going to be able to turn all these players around miraculously and have a kind of a rags to riches story. So it probably is an upgrade on Murdoch, Masila and Laurie if he comes in as a bench prop, but I always just worry about players coming in that are coming off big contracts that the club is saying, well, we actually don't want you so much that we're going to actually pay for you to play for another team, another rival side in the competition. The Dragons have done that with Moses Mbye, with Josh Maguire, with Jack Bird. Oh, there's so many of them that came through in that Griffin era. And it feels a little bit like that kind of signing. I don't know really if it makes the Dragons a much better side in 2025 if they do get him. It's just, I don't know. It's frustrating, and this kind of leads into our next point, but I'll get your thoughts first, Kurt. It's frustrating the Dragons kind of pull out of the race with Stefano Utokamanu, who was a player that, we spoke about last week glowingly, a player in his prime, or a young player, if not in his prime, to go after a player that just seems a little bit washed and a little bit old and a little bit tired. It just seems to be the Dragons' way, and it's just a little bit deflating.
I will push back on that a little bit, Jack, and just say that Daniel Saifiti never has to play rep football again, but he can still be a good first-grade player. And I think he's still playing some good football at the Newcastle Knights. So the best part for me, and if you want to go back to when Shane Flanagan first got the job, and he was talking about getting some veterans in that understand how to be winners, Daniel Saifiti has been a really great local club man up at the Knights. I think he's club captain there for a while, or on-field captain, and led the side from the front for several years. He is a big body. He understands how to play as a big man, and has played in some big games. And he's the prototype character that I think the coach has been chasing since he's got the club. So, I mean, if you want to talk about, Eisenhuth, he's good for the club because he's going to be good around training. According to the team report tonight, he's going to be captain this week. So obviously the players respond to him. I think you'll get the same kind of thing out of Daniel Saifiti. And he's a little bit younger than going for him. And I think he'll be more than half price than Oitukamanu would have been. I think Saifiti will do a little bit more than a job for you guys, and if you keep him on the field, he could turn out to a bit like a James Graham, where Graham was a English legend, came to Canterbury, Bulldogs legend, then you got him to the Dragons, and I think you guys respect James Graham as a club legend or a club great as well. So I'm not putting Daniel Saifiti in the same bracket as James Graham, but I think he can do just as good a job off the field and at training. And he's the type of guy where you almost got to start him, a bit like if you remember Craig Smith that played for the Dragons, the prop forward. He's not going to have the same impact off the bench that you could have with the other guys pushing through. But look, I think watch this space. I think there's more to Saifiti than maybe Lodge, and I could agree with that. But if you're going to pick up Saifiti compared to Lodge, Saifiti might be a little bit more, obviously a lot cheaper than Oitukamanu, but you might get 3, 4, possibly 5 years out of Saifiti if he can get to the club. And he doesn't, like I said, he doesn't have to be a rep player again. He just needs to be a good prop for the Dragons to get them through to that next step of where they're trying to go.
Yeah, currently 28, turns 29 in May of next year, 14 games this year, averaging 9 runs for 92 metres and 20 tackles a game, Kurt.
Yeah, and look, at the pub, a lot of the time, the boys on Supercoach, which I can't stand and won't play, they will hit me with those stats about a lot of players. And there's stats and then there's players and then there's stats and players. So it's a hard one right now. I will say that's a good signing for the Dragons, and I think you'll get something really good out of him. But I do understand the point that, what's he doing now at the Knights that we're going to get at the Dragons? That's the question for you.
And he probably had his best game of the season on the weekend. But yeah, I guess my concern is comes to the club just before his 29th birthday. If he does bring some quality to the Dragons, how much do we get? Do we get it for a season? And how much are we going to pay him? When his contract comes to an end with Newcastle, or Newcastle paying freight, how much are the Dragons going to be willing to kind of pay within their cap? But I guess we need forwards and we need some middlemen and we need some experienced men, and beggars can't be choosers. So it's going to be an interesting one. And knowing the Dragons, they've been in the media, they've been linked with everyone. I think they've been linked with David Beckham to come and play with the club. So yeah, there's